Hey guys, this is Buford with Scholarships for Soccer, and today we have a very special guest. Her name is Regina Scott, and she is the mother of Jenae Scott, a committed soccer player to Florida Southern University who will be starting there in the fall. Regina, welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Okay, let's go back to when Jenae was in high school, when you were just starting out with the recruiting process. Um, did you have to kind of motivate her to get started, or was she coming to you saying, what do I need to do to get started, or did she just take off on her own and start the recruiting process on her own?
She definitely needed a little motivation. So in the early parts of high school, Jenae was undecided if she wanted to do basketball or soccer in college. And so when we started in ninth grade, she was looking at schools that had good basketball and soccer programs. So it made um, finding a good school or a good group of schools kind of difficult. Also, her major at that point, she wanted to build prosthetic limbs. So she had a couple of different options that made it really difficult on that search. So she wasn't extremely motivated, and I understand why, but we started with Captain U, actually, their free version. They have a really great search tool. And so we had been to a couple of places in person, and so we looked at how Captain U ranked those, whether it was rural or urban, and used that to gauge how she could look at some other schools with those same tags to kind of narrow down her search. Started with things in the South and then kind of progressed from there. And so she would work on it for a few hours, come up with a really good list to go from, and then a few months would go by and hey, have you worked on this? No. Okay. And I would be frustrated because I wanted her to do more and be more on top of it, but she didn't seem to have a care in the world. So I learned to not have a care in the world either. And then eventually when she decided she wanted to do just soccer, which was in the 10th grade, she decided that she wanted to actually be a soccer coach. And so we had to go back and start all over again because now she was looking strictly at soccer and she was looking at a different major, doing exercise science instead of engineering, biomedical engineering. So it really wouldn't have mattered what she did in the first year and ninth grade year because we had to do it all over again anyway.
Yes.
She was still sluggish at that point. It really wasn't until the spring of her junior year when she really hit her stride. She had a good soccer season with school. We were still in the middle of it, but we had a parent who was good at always taking clips. And so we had a really good game where it was the first time our school had ever beaten one of our crosstown rivals in like 30 years. And so it made the newspapers and everything, and she scored 2 goals, 2 of the 3 goals. We won 3-2. It was their senior night. And so it got big newspaper coverage. So she used that as her motivating factor to say, hey, let me put this out there. So she sent the clips of her goals and that article about, because it was a history-making event. And she sent that to her coaches, the schools that she was interested in. And from that point on, she was on top of the majority of her recruitment.
Okay. Now, as you know, in our Facebook group, a big topic of conversation is always what's the best league for my child to play in. Were you ever really concerned about that? During the high school period, where you really want her to play in a different league than she was playing in, or how'd you navigate that in the club world?
No, we stayed with the club we had. So she's been with the club that we have, ASG, Warner ASG, since she was 9. And I stayed with them and enrolled my other children because they were really good at developing her. So she's went through multiple positions and things, but every coach that she had, and she's had a few because they change every 2 years, really developed a different part of her game. And so I saw growth with her personally as she developed, and that wasn't happening with the other club that's in town. And so I chose to stay. People mentioned, if she's really going to go somewhere, you probably need to send her to Orlando or other places that were far away. And I didn't have the money or the interest to do that, considering what we were getting where we were was sufficient for her and what she needed to do.
Okay. Now, when you guys started reaching out to coaches, was, like say your junior year. Well, let's go back a little bit past that. Say sophomore year when you first started reaching out. Were coaches reaching back out to you, or was it kind of slow in the beginning?
I want to say it was kind of slow. So when they hit U16, the club moved into a showcase team, which dealt more with the college age, and it was a change of uniform, a change of dynamic. It was much more serious, and so the coach gave a presentation on the recruitment process, what we need to do, how they need to start, and it was mainly for the girls. The parents were there just as an FYI, but he wanted to put them in charge of their process, and so we had some communications from the D3 coaches, but the other classifications, they talked to the coach directly. And so he would relay a message, so-and-so's interested, or I got this email about Jenae for this place or the other place, but that really didn't heat up for her until junior year.
Okay. And now I, know from talking with Jenae, she got several offers. How did you help her decide between offers, or did you leave that up to her, or did you really try to influence that decision based on finances, or how exactly that process worked out?
Well, and speaking of finances, we had already talked early on about what I could afford and what I had saved or not, which was nothing for her, and what I needed her to do and all my children to do is make sure your academics are good, because mommy didn't save any money. So you need to be prepared on what I can handle versus not. So she already knew going in, and ironically, the school that she chose is one that we had she was interested in, but taken off the table because they were expensive. But the one thing I had her do was make a list of what you want. So in narrowing down her choices, she started in the South. Well, do you want to fly? Do you want to drive? How far do you want to drive to get home? So she made her list of what was important to her, and I had her keep going back to her list. So you want to be within 4 hours, you want to be on a traditional campus, not an urban type campus. You want to be in a small area. Look at what you have, what offers you have, look at the school and go back to the list of what you say you want and see where they match. And really, you say this one's interested, but they're 8 hours away. Are you really interested because they're interested, or you really want to be that far away? And so she would have to think about those things, and ultimately she picked a place that was within her target list.
Okay. So when she narrowed it down, when did the discussion with the coach come in about scholarships and money in particular?
That actually started, she was ironically, so I have more than one kid who plays soccer, and I was 4 hours away from Jenae. She was down in Miami for a showcase game, I believe, and I was in Lakeland with my other daughter for some state cup games, and there was a coach down there watching, and he made her an offer on the spot after the game, which was quite ironic. So it was a really great game for them, and I was sad that I missed it, but she called me, and he had texted her and sent her a message on Instagram and all that, making her a full ride offer, covering tuition, books, everything, So she was excited coming back from the game, and they get back to the car, and it had been broken into, and she had her stuff robbed. And so it was a complete change of excitement about, yay, I had a great game. Yay, I got this offer. All my stuff's been stolen. And so that just kind of took care of her mindset on everything about it. The coach wanted her to come tour the school because it was closed. But, he recognized now's not the time. I mean, she didn't have cleats. It was just a whole big mess. But he had copied her coach on his email to her stating what he's stating with the full ride offer. So her coach then in turn told everybody else who was interested in her at what was then on the table. And so from that point on, they knew what they had to match, or at least be really close to, in order to be considered for her. So it really blew her away, but it also set the bar high for people coming in. How bad do you really want her? Because this is what the offer's been made.
Okay, so she got that that offer that she got at the tournament, that's not the school she ended up in, correct?
Correct. That is not the school that
Okay.
she ended up.
So you were able to leverage that and tell everybody else, well, we've got this offer on the table, so you need to, in layman's terms, you need to come correct or don't come at all.
Somewhat, yes. There were some schools that, they heard right off, we're not going to be able to match that. I understand you're choosing something else. We had some who felt like, yeah, but that's a different level of school. We're still top notch, so you should come to ours. There's no comparison in playing for them versus playing for us. So, some really didn't care. I don't think they would have been able to come close to the offer that she was given already. The school that she went to was pretty close to that.
Okay. And let's say the school that she's at now wasn't able to come really close to that offer. Do you think she still would have gone to Florida Southern?
I do. We did when she had the tryout, and that included a tour of the school, and we spent a lot of time on campus that day. When we started, she wasn't that fond of the place, but by the time we went through the tour, we had lunch, she met with some of the professors, because he did a really good job of getting people in her major student on the team to sit with her at lunch. And then also she met with some of the professors in that discipline afterwards to talk one-on-one to get a feel for how things go. And she had decided at that point that she really liked the place and she would be willing to go here without soccer. And so I knew that she had found something that was for her.
Okay. Now, looking back, Jenae's recruitment has been very successful, but looking back, is there one thing that you would do different than you did?
I probably would not stress as much as I did because it's her journey, and at the end of the day, it's going to be what it's going to be. And regardless of she didn't go where I would like for her to go or what I thought would be the best option for her, but it's her journey and it's her trip. She found a place that she really loves and she's really excited about joining. She's already got her roommate picked out. They talk all the time. They're excited. She's found somebody who matches her same energy. So they are going to be a force to be reckoned with on the field and off.
Oh, but there's another person out there with her energy?
Oh, yes, she is. She lives about 8 hours away from us. So the school is actually in the middle for both of them. But those two, we actually met the parents for the other side when we were in the same place for soccer, for something else. And they clicked, we clicked. So they have a really good dynamic. And it's going to be interesting to see how they play together. They're both excited. We're excited. So yeah, it's quite interesting.
Okay. Now, final question. What is one big piece of advice you'd have for parents who have, sophomores and juniors now coming up? What is one good piece of advice for those parents?
You can't want it more than your children. They have to want it. It's their path. They're the ones who are going to have to play. It's their decision. Ideally, we're not going to school with them. We do know some people who do, but they're going to have to take those classes themselves. They're going to have to go to practice. So you're raising them to be good young adults. You have to give them the ability to make some tough decisions that they may struggle with. I did have to step in a couple of times and give some advice that my knowledge and experience helped me to see some things that didn't look right to me that she didn't get or she wouldn't have understood. And she understood when I explained to her, okay, this is why I feel this way and why I think this. She was able to take that advice and go with it to make her own decisions. But you have to let them go. You have to let them make those choices on their own and just support them and love them, because at the end of the day, that's all that matters, is a happy kid.
All right. Well, Regina, that is such great advice, and I hope I can take it to heart.
You will. It's not always easy, not easy by any means, but at the end of the day, we just all love our kids and want the best for them, whatever their path may be. So.
Yes. Well, Regina, I know you got things to do, but it has been such a pleasure talking with you. and you dropped so much knowledge here for the parents. And we may be calling on you soon. I know I'll be PMing you, saying, Dante got this. What should he do?
That's not a problem at all. It was my pleasure. I enjoyed talking.
All right. Well, you have a good one, Regina.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you.